The starship Horizon's Edge floated silently in the darkness of space. Captain Park stood on the bridge with his hands behind his back. He watched the massive space station growing larger through the window. This was the day humanity had waited for. First contact with the Galactic Union, 12 alien species, thousands of years of civilization. And now, humans were finally invited to meet them. "We are approaching Station Confluence," said the pilot. "Docking in 10 minutes. Nodded slowly. His heart was beating fast, but his face showed nothing. A captain must always look calm. Behind him, his crew worked at their stations. They had trained for this moment for 3 years. Nothing could go wrong. Nothing would go wrong. In the ship's conference room, Ambassador was preparing her speech. She was a woman of 53 years with gray hair and sharp eyes. She had spent her whole life in diplomacy. She had ended wars. She had built peace between nations that hated each other for centuries. But this was different. This was not about countries. This was about species, about worlds. "Are you nervous?" asked Dr. Lee. He was the ship's medical officer, a kind man with gentle hands and a warm smile. He carried a small tablet with his presentation on human biology. The aliens had requested a cultural and biological exchange. They wanted to understand humans, and humans wanted to understand them. Smiled a little. "Nervous? I have been nervous for 6 months. Today I am simply terrified." Laughed softly. "At least we are terrified together." Lieutenant entered the room. She was the head of security, a tall woman with strong shoulders and eyes that missed nothing. She wore her uniform perfectly pressed and her weapon at her hip. "The station has cleared us for docking. Security scans show no threats. The aliens are waiting for us in the Grand Assembly Hall." "How many?" asked. "Representatives from all 12 species. About 40 aliens in total, plus their guards and assistants, maybe 100 beings." Took a deep breath. "Then let us not keep them waiting." The docking was smooth. The airlock opened with a soft hiss. The smell of the station was strange. Not bad, just different, like flowers that did not exist on Earth mixed with something metallic. The gravity felt slightly lighter than Earth normal. The lights were softer, more blue than yellow. A guide was waiting for them. It was an insect-like creature standing on 4 legs with 2 arms and large compound eyes. It wore a translation device around its neck. "Welcome, humans," they said. Its voice was clicks and chirps, but the translator made it into smooth English. "I am Assistant Coordinator. I will take you to the Grand Assembly Hall. Please follow me." They walked through long corridors. The walls were decorated with art from different worlds. Paintings of alien sunsets, sculptures made of crystal, tapestries showing strange histories. Tried not to stare too much. He wanted to look confident, professional, not like a child seeing wonders for the first time. The Grand Assembly Hall was enormous. The ceiling rose high above them, painted with stars and galaxies. Long tables formed a half circle, and at each table sat different aliens, with their insect bodies, the aquatic beings in suits filled with water, the tall plant-like creatures with leaves instead of hair, and others, so many others, each one stranger and more wonderful than the last. At the center table sat High Chancellor. He was thin and elegant, with skin so pale it was almost transparent. Blue veins showed beneath his flesh. His eyes were large and completely black. He rose when the humans entered and spread his arms in welcome. "Humans of Earth," said. His voice was musical like wind through glass. "We welcome you to the Galactic Union. For 10,000 years we have watched your world from afar. We have seen you grow from simple creatures to builders of starships. Today we meet as equals. Today we begin a new friendship." Ambassador stepped forward and bowed slightly. "High Chancellor, on behalf of Earth and all humanity, we thank you for this welcome. We come in peace. We come with open hands and open hearts. We hope to learn from you and to share what we know." The ceremony continued. There were speeches. There were gifts exchanged, a bottle of wine from France, a crystal sculpture from A living flower from that sang when touched. Everything was perfect. Everything was beautiful. Then came the biological exchange. Dr. Lee stood before the assembly with his tablet ready. "Honored representatives," he said, "you have asked to understand human biology. We are happy to share this knowledge. We believe that understanding each other's bodies will help us understand each other's minds and hearts." He activated the holographic display. The first images showed human skin, then muscles, then organs. The aliens watched with interest. Some took notes. Some whispered to each other. Everything was going well. "And now," said, "I will show you the human skeletal system. This is the framework that supports our bodies." He pressed a button. A full human skeleton appeared in the air. White bones, empty eye sockets, grinning teeth. It rotated slowly so everyone could see. For 1 second there was silence. Then the screaming began. The ambassador fell from his chair, his legs kicking in panic. He made sounds that the translator could not process, just raw terror. The representative thrashed so hard that her water suit cracked. Blue liquid sprayed across the floor as she collapsed. The representative curled into a ball, its leaves wrapping around its body like armor. Chancellor screamed. It was a sound like breaking glass, like 1,000 bells shattering at once. He knocked over his table trying to escape. His guards grabbed him and dragged him toward the exit. Other aliens ran. Some fainted. Some vomited. One small being simply fell over and stopped moving completely. "Turn it off," shouted Lieutenant. "Turn it off now." Pressed buttons frantically. The skeleton disappeared, but the damage was done. The Grand Assembly Hall had become chaos. Aliens were crawling over each other to escape. Guards were shouting in languages the translators could not handle. Warning lights began to flash. Within 2 minutes the hall was empty. Every single alien had fled. Some had been carried out unconscious. Others had left puddles of various bodily fluids behind. The beautiful tapestries were torn. The crystal sculptures were broken. The humans stood alone in the silence. Captain looked at the destruction around them. His face was pale. What just happened? Ambassador shook her head slowly. She had no words. Dr. Lee stared at his tablet, at the simple image of human bones. "I do not understand. It was just a skeleton, just bones. Why would they be afraid of bones?" Lieutenant checked her scanner. Multiple life forms in medical distress throughout the station. Some are going into shock. Others have elevated stress hormones at dangerous levels. "From a picture," asked, "from a picture of a skeleton." No one could answer him. The humans had traveled across the stars to make friends. They had brought gifts and speeches and hope. They had prepared for every possibility, every cultural misunderstanding, every diplomatic challenge. But no one had prepared them for this. No one had told them that in a galaxy full of wonders, the most terrifying thing was not a weapon or a monster or a disease. It was the human body itself. 3 days passed in silence. The humans stayed on their ship. No alien would speak to them. No messages came. No visitors arrived. The docking clamps remained locked so they could not leave. They could only wait. Captain Park spent most of his time on the bridge, staring at the station through the window. Somewhere inside that massive structure, aliens were making decisions about humanity's future, and he could do nothing but wait. Ambassador tried sending messages, apologies, requests for explanation, offers to talk. Nothing worked. Every message went unanswered. It was like shouting into empty space. On the 3rd day, a message finally came. It was a recorded video from High Chancellor. His face appeared on the screen, but he looked different now. His pale skin had become almost gray. His large black eyes were filled with fear. His hands trembled as he spoke. "Humans of Earth," said. His musical voice was now weak and shaking. "We must know the truth. We must understand what you are. Tell us honestly. Are you the legendary Death Walkers?" The message ended. The screen went dark. Captain looked at his senior staff. Death Walkers, what is he talking about? Nobody knew. Han, the ship's linguistics specialist, had been working without sleep for 3 days. She was a young woman with tired eyes and messy hair. She had been searching through every database she could access, looking for answers. Now she raised her hand. "I think I found something," she said. "Can everyone come to the research room?" They gathered around her workstation. Screens covered the walls, showing ancient texts and strange symbols. Looked exhausted but excited. "The Death Walkers," she began. "It is a legend, a myth shared by every species in the Galactic Union. I found references to it in religious texts, children's stories, historical records. Everyone knows this legend. Everyone fears it." "What does the legend say?" asked Ambassador. Pulled up an image on the main screen. It was an ancient drawing, faded with age. It showed tall figures surrounded by darkness. Around them, other creatures fled in terror. According to the legend, thousands of years ago, there existed beings called Death Walkers. They were creatures who carried death inside their bodies. Their very structure was built upon frameworks of death. Bones. Hard, permanent bones hidden beneath their flesh. The legend says these beings could not truly die because death was already part of them. Dr. Lee leaned forward. "They are afraid of skeletons, of bones." "Not just afraid," said. "Terrified, horrified. The legends describe the Death Walkers as monsters, demons, gods of death who walked between worlds and brought destruction wherever they went." Lieutenant shook her head in disbelief. "But bones are just bones. They are normal. Every human has them." "That is exactly the problem," explained. "I did more research. Every species in the Galactic Union has a different body structure. They have hard shells on the outside, exoskeletons that have no bones at all. They are soft throughout. They have flexible plant fibers. Some species use cartilage, others use fluid pressure, but none of them have internal bones." She pulled up biological diagrams of different alien species. To them, bones are symbols of death. When a creature dies, its soft parts rot away. What remains? Bones, a skeleton. To every species in this galaxy, a skeleton is not a living thing. A skeleton is what death leaves behind. A corpse, a reminder that all life ends. The room was silent. "And humans," continued quietly, "humans have these death symbols inside them all the time. We carry our skeletons with us every moment. We walk and talk and laugh with bones under our skin. To them, we are walking corpses, living death, monsters from their oldest nightmares." Ambassador sat down heavily. "So Wen showed them the skeleton. He showed them their worst fear made real, finished. He proved that humans are the Death Walkers from legend, or at least that is what they believe." Captain walked to the window. He could see his own reflection in the glass. A normal man, a human man, with 206 bones hidden beneath his flesh. He had never thought about his skeleton before. It was just part of him, just how bodies worked. Now he understood that his body was a horror to others. "The legends say more," added. "They say the Deathwalkers were unstoppable warriors. They could not be killed because they had already made peace with death. Some texts say they wore the bones of their enemies as decorations. Others say they could remove their own bones and use them as weapons." Laughed, but it was not a happy sound. "We do wear bone decorations sometimes. Jewelry made from ivory, carved bone art and skulls. We use skull symbols everywhere, on flags, on clothing, in our art." "The skull and crossbones," said quietly. "The universal human symbol for danger, for poison, for death." "To them, we probably seem like we worship death," said. "Like we celebrate it." "Some cultures do," pointed out. "Day of the Dead, Halloween, we dress as skeletons for fun. Children paint their faces like skulls and go door to door asking for candy." Nodded. "I found references to this in the legend too. It says the Death Walkers held festivals to honor the dead. They decorated their homes with bones. They taught their children to embrace death rather than fear it. We thought we were teaching them about our biology, said. Instead, we confirmed every terrible thing they believed about us. Another message arrived. This one was text only. It came from Chancellor. We request a meeting. We must understand. Please come to conference room 7. Only 3 representatives. No weapons. We will be watching through screens only. We cannot be in the same room as Death Walkers. Not yet. Perhaps not ever. Captain read the message twice. Then he looked at his people. We have to try, he said. We have to explain. We have to make them understand that we are not monsters. Are we sure about that? Asked. We have bones. We celebrate skulls. We fight wars. We have killed millions of our own kind throughout history. Maybe we are exactly what they think we are. No, said firmly. We are humans. We are not perfect. We have done terrible things, but we have also done beautiful things. We create art and music. We love our families. We help strangers. We dream of peace. She stood up and straightened her uniform. I will go to this meeting. I will explain what humans really are. Not death walkers, not monsters, just people. People who happen to have bones. I will come with you, said. I can explain the biology. I can help them understand. And I will provide security, said, even if I cannot bring weapons. Captain nodded. Then go speak for humanity, show them who we really are. As the 3 walked toward the door, called out one last thing. Ambassador, there is one more part of the legend I did not mention. Turn back, what is it? Looked at her screen. The legends say that if the Death Walkers ever returned, the galaxy would face a choice. Either destroy them completely, or bow before them as gods. The door closed behind them. The words hung in the empty air. Somewhere on the station, aliens were waiting to hear if humans were gods or monsters. And 3 ordinary people with 206 bones each were walking to give them an answer. Conference room 7 was cold and empty. 3 chairs sat on one side of a long table. A large screen covered the opposite wall. Ambassador, Dr. Lee, and Lieutenant entered slowly. The door closed behind them with a soft click. For a long moment, nothing happened. Then the screen flickered to life. Chancellor appeared. He was sitting in a dark room somewhere on the station. His pale face glowed in the screen's light. His black eyes stared at the humans with a mixture of fear and curiosity, like a child watching a dangerous animal through glass. Thank you for coming, said. His voice was careful, controlled. Please sit. The humans sat down. Before we begin, said gently, I want to apologize for what happened in the Grand Assembly Hall. We did not know that our biology would frighten you. We did not mean to cause harm. Was silent for a moment. You did not know. How could you not know? You carry death inside you. You wear your bones beneath your skin like armor made from corpses, and you did not know this would frighten us. Leaned forward. Chancellor, with great respect, our bones are not death. They are life. They are what keeps us alive. Explain, said. The word was sharp, demanding. Took a deep breath. May I show you something? Not a skeleton this time, something gentler, a full image of a living human body. Hesitated. His fear was visible, but finally he nodded. Activated a small projector. A holographic image appeared above the table. It was a human body but shown in layers, skin on the outside, then muscles beneath, then organs, and finally bones at the center, everything together, everything working as one system. This is what we look like inside, said softly. Yes, we have bones, but look at them. They are not separate from us. They are part of us. They connect to our muscles. They protect our organs. Our heart sits safely behind our ribs. Our brain is protected by our skull. Our bones are not death, Chancellor. They are our shield against death. Stared at the image. His hands gripped the arms of his chair. Our bones do something else, continued. They make our blood. Inside our bones is something called marrow. It creates new blood cells every day. Millions of them. Our bones are not dead things. They are living factories that keep us alive. Living, whispered, your death framework, lives. Yes, and when our bones break, they heal, they grow back together. Sometimes they become stronger than before, smiled gently. I broke my arm when I was a child. I fell from a tree. The bone cracked. It hurt very much. But my body fixed itself. The bone grew back. Now that arm is perfectly healthy. Was quiet for a long time. The fear in his eyes was slowly changing to something else. Confusion, perhaps, or wonder. Your bodies repair their own death structures, he said slowly. You heal your own bones. We do, said. Chancellor, I understand why you fear us. Your legends speak of death walkers, monsters who carry death inside them, but we are not monsters. We are just different. Our evolution took a different path than yours. Why? Asked. Why would any creature evolve to carry bones? Bones are what remain after death. Bones are what we find when life is gone. Why would life choose to build itself upon the symbol of its own ending? Spoke for the first time. Her voice was calm and strong. Because it works, bones give us structure. They let us stand tall. They let us run fast. They let us carry heavy things. On Earth, many successful animals have bones. Fish, birds, bears, whales. Having an internal skeleton was a good survival strategy. The Death Walker legends, said carefully, say that we cannot be killed because death is already part of us. That is not true. We can die. We do die. But perhaps there is a small truth in the legend. Because we carry our bones with us always, we are very familiar with death. We think about it. We accept it. We do not fear our own skeletons. Made a sound that might have been a laugh or might have been a sob. You do not fear your own skeletons. Do you hear yourself? Do you understand how terrifying that statement is? Nodded slowly. I am beginning to understand. To you, a skeleton is pure horror, the worst thing you can imagine, but to us, a skeleton is just ourselves. We see them in school when we learn biology. We see them in hospitals when doctors check if our bones are healthy. We make jokes about them. We put them in our stories and our art. Your children, said. The researcher mentioned something. Your children dress as skeletons for celebration. Smiled. We have a holiday called Halloween. Children wear costumes. Some dress as monsters or ghosts or skeletons. They go to houses and ask for candy. It is fun. It is not scary. Well, it is a little scary, but in a playful way. You teach your young to become comfortable with death, said. You make death into a game. I suppose we do, admitted. Is that wrong? Was silent for a long moment. When he spoke again, his voice was different, softer, more thoughtful. Among my people, we never speak of death. We hide from it. When someone dies, we destroy the body completely so nothing remains. We believe that if we ignore death, it cannot touch us. We have built our entire civilization on the idea that death can be avoided, forgotten, escaped. He looked at the humans through the screen. And then you arrive, creatures who carry death in their very bodies, who celebrate it, who teach it to children, who break their death frames and heal them like it is nothing. You are everything we have tried to forget, everything we have tried to hide from. Chancellor, said gently, we are not here to frighten you. We are not here to hurt you. We came because we wanted friends. We wanted to learn from you and share with you. We wanted to be part of something bigger than ourselves. I believe you, said quietly. That is perhaps the strangest part. I look at you, and my instincts scream that you are death made flesh. But your words say you want peace. Your actions say you want friendship. What do you believe? Asked. Considered the question carefully. I believe that you are exactly what the legend said. Death walkers, beings who carry death inside them. But I also believe that the legends were wrong about what that means. He stood up from his chair. For the first time, he moved closer to his screen. His face filled the image. The legends say death walkers bring destruction, but you have not destroyed anything. You have apologized. You have explained. You have tried to understand us as we try to understand you. Perhaps the legends are like many old stories. Perhaps they contain truth but miss the meaning. Felt hope rising in her chest. Does this mean you will give us a chance? Was about to answer when alarms began to sound. Red lights flashed. A voice spoke in an alien language that the translators struggled to process. Warning, danger, attack. The Chancellor's face changed. The thoughtful expression disappeared. Pure terror took its place. No, he whispered, not now, not here. What is happening? Demanded. Looked at them with desperate eyes. Ravagers, the Ravagers have come. They are attacking the station. The screen went dark. The alarms grew louder. Somewhere in the station, explosions began. The meeting was over. The conversation about death and bones and legends would have to wait. Real death had arrived at Station Confluence. The explosions shook the entire station. Ambassador grabbed the table to keep from falling. Lieutenant was already moving toward the door, her hand reaching for a weapon that was not there. We need to get back to the ship, said, now. They ran through corridors filled with chaos. Aliens were everywhere, pushing and shoving and screaming in a dozen languages. Some were trying to reach escape pods. Others had fallen and were being stepped on. Warning lights flashed red and orange. Smoke drifted through the air. Captain Park met them at the airlock. His face was grim. I have been watching on scanners. 3 Ravager warships dropped out of hyperspace 10 minutes ago. They are already inside the station. Ravagers asked, who are the Ravagers? The worst thing in the galaxy, said a voice behind them. It was the assistant from their first day. His compound eyes were wide with terror. Raiders, killers, they attack stations and colonies. They take what they want. They kill everyone else. Can the station fight them off? Asked. Made a clicking sound that the translator turned into bitter laughter. Fight them. No one fights Ravagers. No one survives Ravagers. We can only hope they take what they want quickly and leave some of us alive. Another explosion shook the station. This one was closer. Through a window, they could see a section of the station burning. Captain looked at his crew. There were 47 humans on the horizon's edge. Scientists, engineers, diplomats, soldiers, all of them far from home. All of them watching a space station full of innocent beings being destroyed. We could leave, said slowly. Our ship is fast. We could escape while the Ravagers are busy. And let everyone here die? Asked. We are not soldiers. This is not our fight. No, said. It is not our fight, but these people welcomed us. They offered us friendship even though we terrified them. They were starting to trust us. From somewhere deep in the station, screams echoed through the corridors. Closed his eyes. When he opened them, his decision was made. All crew battle stations, we are going to help. Smiled, it was not a nice smile. It was the smile of a hunter, finally. They armed themselves with everything the ship had. Pulse rifles, energy pistols, combat knives, body armor, not enough for a war but enough for a fight. 47 humans against an army of Ravagers. This is suicide, said. He had followed them onto the ship. The Ravagers are killing machines. They have exoskeletons stronger than metal. They feel no pain. They show no mercy. Neither do we, said Sergeant. He was loading his rifle with practiced hands. A big man with a face and calm eyes. Not when we are protecting people. They moved into the station in groups of 8, led the main team. Her orders were clear. Find survivors, protect them, kill anything that tries to hurt them. The first Ravagers they met were in the medical wing. The creatures were horrifying, standing 2 meters tall with bodies covered in black and red armor. They had too many limbs and too many teeth. They moved like insects but fought like demons. They were killing wounded aliens who could not escape, slicing them apart with blade-like arms, enjoying it. Contact, shouted. The humans opened fire. Pulse rifles lit up the corridor with blue and white light. The first Ravager fell, its chest exploding. The second turned toward them and charged. Private met it head-on. She was small, barely 160 centimeters tall, but she moved like water. Her knife found a gap in the creature's armor. She twisted. The Ravager screamed and fell. The third Ravager caught Sergeant with a blade strike. The weapon cut through his armor and into his arm. Blood sprayed across the wall, grunted in pain but did not stop fighting. He grabbed the Ravager's arm with his wounded limb and pulled the creature close. His other hand pressed his pistol against its head. He fired twice. Sergeant shouted, "Your arm!" Looked at the wound. Bone was visible through the torn flesh, white against red. Bone is not broken, I can still fight. They kept moving. In the entertainment district, they found a group of civilians trapped by fallen debris. Ravagers were closing in. The humans arrived just in time. The battle was brutal. Close quarters. Knives and claws, teeth and bullets. Private Nam took a slash across the face that would have killed any soft-bodied alien. Instead, the blade scraped across his skull beneath the skin. It hurt. It bled. But the bone protected his brain. He kept fighting. Corporal Shin was thrown into a wall so hard the metal dented. She stood up anyway. Her ribs were cracked. Every breath hurt. But cracked ribs meant the ribs had done their job. They had protected her heart and lungs. She could breathe. She could fight. The Ravagers began to notice something strange. These new creatures would not stay down. They bled but kept fighting. They broke but kept standing. They screamed in pain, but the screams sounded like battle cries, not surrender. One Ravager commander watched a human female continue fighting with a blade stuck in her shoulder. The weapon had gone through flesh and scraped against bone. Any other species would have collapsed. This one pulled the blade out, reversed it, and used it to kill the Ravager who had wounded her. The commander felt something it had never felt before. Fear. These were not normal prey. These were something else, something wrong, something that should not exist. Word spread through the Ravager ranks. The new species was dangerous. The new species did not die properly. The new species carried something hard inside their bodies that protected them from killing blows. The Ravagers had heard legends about such creatures, old stories from conquered worlds, fairy tales meant to frighten children. Deathwalkers. The Ravagers did not believe in fairy tales, but they believed what they saw, and what they saw was impossible. In the Grand Assembly Hall, now turned into a battlefield, Lieutenant stood over the body of a Ravager she had killed with her bare hands. Her knuckles were bloody. 2 fingers on her left hand bent at wrong angles. Broken. She grabbed them and pulled them straight. The pain was terrible, but pain was just information. Her bones would heal. Later. "How many left?" she asked. "Scanners show about 60 Ravagers still active on the station," reported technician. He was bleeding from a cut on his head but still working his equipment. "They are concentrating near the reactor core." "Why there?" "If they destroy the reactor, the station explodes. Everyone dies." Nodded, "Then that is where we go." The humans gathered. Of the 47 who had started, 39 could still fight. The others were too wounded to continue but alive. Dr. Lee stayed behind to treat them and to help the alien wounded. 39 humans against 60 Ravagers. The odds were terrible. Smiled her hunter's smile again. "We have had worse odds," she said. "Remember the Soul Uprising." "Different enemy," said. "Same situation. We were outnumbered then too. And we won. We lost 12 people. But we won." They moved toward the reactor core. Behind them, the station burned. Ahead of them, death waited. But humans had never been afraid of death. They carried it with them after all. Inside their very bones, the corridor leading to the reactor core was painted with blood. Alien blood, blue and green and purple. The Ravagers had not shown mercy. They never did. Lieutenant led her team forward. Every step brought new horrors. Bodies of innocent beings, torn apart, left to rot. The Ravagers had enjoyed their work. Movement ahead, whispered Corporal Shin. Her cracked ribs made breathing painful, but her eyes were sharp. 20 contacts, maybe more. Formation ordered, we push through. They hit the Ravager line like a wave hitting rocks. Pulse rifles blazed. Knives flashed. The corridor became a storm of violence. Private killed 3 Ravagers in 30 seconds. Her small body twisted and spun between their attacks. Her knife found soft spots in their armor, throats, joints, eyes. She moved like death itself. Sergeant fought with one arm hanging useless at his side. The wound had torn through muscle and scraped against bone. He should have been in surgery. Instead, he was fighting. His good arm held a pulse rifle. His shots were precise. Every pull of the trigger meant one less Ravager. They pushed through. They left bodies behind them. Some were Ravagers, some were human. Private Nam fell with a blade through his chest. Corporal Myra died protecting a wounded teammate. They did not stop to mourn. There would be time for mourning later, if there was a later. The reactor core was a massive room filled with glowing energy conduits. In the center, surrounded by controls, stood the Ravager commander. It was larger than the others. Its armor was decorated with trophies from 100 conquered worlds, bones and teeth and skulls. But not human bones, not yet. Around the commander stood 20 Ravagers, and behind them, huddled against the wall, were hostages, 30 aliens, including Chancellor. The commander turned to face the humans. Its voice was like grinding metal. More prey, good, we were getting bored. Stepped forward. Her uniform was torn and bloody. Her broken fingers had swollen to twice their normal size, but she stood straight. Release the hostages. Leave this station. This is your only warning. The commander made a sound that might have been laughter. Warning. You give us warning. Little creatures with soft bodies and weak limbs. You should be begging for quick deaths. We are not little, said. We are not soft, and we do not beg. You are food, the commander said. Like all the others, we have conquered 1,000 worlds. We have killed billions. What are 40 humans against the Ravager Empire? Captain Park pushed through to stand beside. His arm was broken in 3 places. White bone showed through torn skin at his wrist. He did not seem to notice. We are enough, he said simply. The commander stared at him, at the visible bone, at the calm face above it. Your death frame shows through your flesh. How are you still standing? Because this is nothing, said. Pain is nothing. Broken bones are nothing. They will heal. But you will not heal from what we are about to do to you. He raised his good hand. In it was a small device. Technician had built it from spare parts and data stolen from Ravager corpses. It was not much to look at, just a cylinder with a button. Your exoskeletons are strong, said. They protect you. They make you feel invincible, but everything has a weakness. Every armor has a crack. He pressed the button. The device emitted a sound too high for human ears, but the Ravagers heard it. The frequency was designed specifically for them, calculated from analysis of their dead. It was the resonance frequency of their exoskeletons. The effect was immediate. The commander's armor began to crack. Small lines appeared across its surface, then larger ones. The creature screamed as its own protective shell turned against it. The cracks spread. Pieces began to fall away. All around the room, Ravagers collapsed. Their exoskeletons shattered like glass. The things that had made them invincible became their destruction. In 30 seconds, it was over. The Ravager commander lay on the floor, its armor broken, its body exposed. It looked up at Captain with something like understanding. You are the Death Walkers, it whispered. The legends were true. We are humans, said. Remember that name. He collapsed. The pain he had been ignoring finally caught up with him, but he was smiling as he fell. Chancellor approached the fallen captain. His hands were trembling, but not from fear, not anymore. You came for us, said. Your bones were broken, your people were dying, and still you came." Ambassador limped over. She had taken a blade cut to her leg. Dr. Lee was already running toward them with medical supplies. "Of course we came," said. "That is what humans do." "Why?" asked. "We feared you, we called you monsters, we treated you with suspicion and horror. Why would you die for us?" Thought about the question carefully. Around her, humans and aliens were helping each other, was teaching a young how to apply a bandage. Sergeant, his wounded arm finally in a sling, was carrying an injured on his back. Private was sharing water with survivors. "Because you needed help," finally said. "That is the only reason that matters." Watch the humans working, bleeding, broken, but still helping, still caring. "We called you Death Walkers," he said softly. "We thought you were monsters who carried death within you." "We do carry death inside us," admitted. "Every human knows they will die someday. We carry our bones as a reminder. But that knowledge does not make us monsters, Chancellor. It makes us treasure life. It makes us fight for it. It makes us willing to die so others can live." Was quiet for a long moment. Then he did something no Union species had ever done to a human. He reached out and touched hand. He felt the bones beneath her skin, the hard framework that supported her soft flesh. "Not death walkers," he said. "Life walkers, beings who carry death and choose life anyway." 3 months later, humanity was formally admitted to the Galactic Union. The ceremony was held in the rebuilt Grand Assembly Hall. This time, when Dr. Lee showed images of human biology, no one screamed. No one fled. Chancellor gave the welcoming speech. "For 10,000 years, we feared the Death Walkers. We told stories of monsters who carried death in their bones. We believed that such creatures would bring destruction to all life." He paused and looked at the human delegation. Captain, his arm finally healed. Ambassador, standing tall and proud. Lieutenant with new scars and the same hunter's smile. "We were wrong," continued. "The humans do carry death inside them. They know they will die. They accept it. And this acceptance gives them a courage we never understood. They do not fight because they fear death. They fight because they love life. They came to us as strangers and became our saviors. They asked only for friendship and gave us everything." He raised his hand in the Union gesture of highest respect. "Today we do not welcome monsters. We welcome friends. We welcome allies. We welcome humans. May the bonds between our peoples last until the stars themselves grow cold." The hall filled with applause, different limbs making different sounds, but all celebrating the same thing. After the ceremony, Captain stood by a window looking at the stars, joined him. "I have been thinking about the old legends," said, "about the Death Walkers. I believe now that the legends were not about creatures to fear. They were about creatures to respect, beings who had mastered the one thing all living creatures fear most." Death asked. "Themselves," said. "You carry death in your bones, but you do not let it control you. You know you will end, but you choose how to live before that end comes. That is not horror, Captain. That is wisdom." Smiled. "We are not that wise. We are just human." "Perhaps," said, "but perhaps being human is its own kind of wisdom." They stood together in silence, watching the stars. Two very different beings from two very different worlds. One with bones hidden beneath flesh, one without. But both alive, both choosing life, both looking toward a future they would build together. Throughout the galaxy, a new saying spread among the species of the Union. It was said when things seemed darkest, when hope seemed lost, when death seemed certain. "Do not fear, the humans are coming, and death walks beside them as a friend." It was not a warning anymore. It was a promise.